I'm so excited for today's conversation. We have some of my favorite people on the planet, Dr. Glenn and Phyllis Hill, founders of Connection Codes, also my Tennessee parents. They are just a beautiful couple in their 60s, like really, really modeling for me what healthy marriage looks like, what a healthy sex life looks like. I have learned so much from just their integrity and honesty. Like in real life, we're friends. And so there have been times I've walked in and they're in a little bit of a disconnection or an argument and it's open. It's not, no one's hiding it. It's like, oh gosh, like we had this conversation this morning. It was actually really painful. And they've even invited me into that of like, hey, can you help us? We're stuck. And so they just live their lives with such emotional integrity, and humility in what they get to do. They are the founders of Connection Codes, a framework for understanding our emotions in ourselves and in our world. And they travel across the world, certified coaches all over the world to help people walk in connection. And so today we got to have a conversation with him all about what it looks like to set a healthy foundation for connection in dating. And I loved it so very much.
To know you, Bridget, is to have a flavor of Glenn and Phyllis. So it was delightful to get to like be in the same virtual space with them. And I love that our listeners are going to walk away with an example of the practical tool of checking in with emotions. If you have a hard time connecting with your emotional experiences, you're going to leave with a really beautiful introduction to that framework that can change everything. So we're so glad you joined us today, and we hope that you enjoy the podcast episode.
Welcome to the Dating and Desire podcast, a place for conversations and resources on sexual formation for adult Christians.
I'm Lauren Matthews.
And I'm Bridget Blood.
Together, we combine our years of ministry experience and time as certified coaches, helping men and women just like you navigate dating in a way that honors your core values.
Each week, you'll hear us talk to therapists, pastors, coaches, and other leaders in the field of sexuality and relationships.
While we acknowledge believers hold various perspectives on this topic,
we're gathered around the belief that our desire is holy,
our body is good,
and our story matters.
Let's dive in.
I think you guys are our first couple on the show, so I'm very excited about that. Definitely one of the most important couples in my life, so excited to share you with our crew today. Would you mind telling us, go back to the beginning, how did you guys meet?
Oh, wow. Okay.
It was bad luck on Phyllis's part.
I was 15 and Glenn was 16, and we actually met at a summer Bible camp in the mountains in South Carolina. And I was really not even supposed to be there. We were moving to Texas a few weeks later, and kind of at church that Sunday morning, my best friend, she was going and she really needed to go. Like, I was like, yeah, you need Bible camp. And she backed out. And I was like, why are you not going? And I grew up at camps, so I loved camps, but I'd never been to this one. And she said, well, I just don't know anybody. And I said, so if I went, you would go? And she said, yeah. And so I asked my parents, and I had to go home from church, throw a bunch of stuff in the suitcase, had not planned to go. So it's not like I had thought through what I'm going to wear or anything like that. And then I go to this camp, and that's where I meet you.
And I literally hit her in the head with a softball. That's the way we met. So when I said bad luck, I wasn't kidding. Because she had said, she and her friend Donna had seen me that morning, and I was really cute back then. And so Donna like elbowed Phyllis and said, look. And then Donna said, he's mine. That was cute. So, but then it was that afternoon on the softball field, and we don't know how much of this was coordinated by God, but I caught the last out of the last inning. So I looked really, just amazing. And so I was walking, and I'd seen her come in. She was sitting between my two best friends, and she was all dressed up. And, at summer camp, you wear, T-shirts and shorts, and you look grungy and buggy and muddy. Well, she looked really nice. I thought, oh my gosh. And I knew I'd been at this camp since literally the day it opened years before. So I knew everybody, and everybody knew me, and I didn't recognize her. And I was like, oh, this is some rich snob. She's all dressed up. Too good for us. She doesn't wear T-shirts. And so
that's funny.
And so I was walking over to her, and I was bouncing the softball because I kept the ball just to emphasize that I'd caught the last out of the game. And just as I got to her, I bounced the ball on the ground. It hit a rock, and it came up. face. So
Oh my
that
gosh.
ruined my suave and debonair approach, because then I was like, "Oh, sorry, I just hit you in the head with it."
Mhm.
And she never recovered from that. She's been
Mm.
deliriously in love.
How many years have you been married?
It'll be 44 next month.
Yay.
Whoa, that's amazing. Oh, we're so excited we get to share so much marriage wisdom with our guests from you.
Cool.
Well,
I
one
don't
of the
know
things that you've talked about is not all of those 44 years were so magical. So can you tell us a
Yeah.
little more about that? What has those 44 years look like?
Well, I was going to say, I don't know about all this wisdom. We can tell you what didn't work, that's for sure.
Mm.
And
Mm.
we have the last several years found what does work, what we now call the connection codes. But we struggled, gracious. We didn't chronicle all this, but it was probably 25, 30 years. We really, really missed with each other relationally and just didn't have a clue.
Well, we missed with each other on our honeymoon.
Right.
And so I think it really set us up
Mm.
horribly because we,
Yeah.
we came with the faith-based background. We were like, okay, we both love God. We love his word. We love ministry. We love all of the things. And it was like, church was our universe. But back in those days, no one talked about sex. And the only thing that was ever said is, it's bad. Don't have sex before you're married. Like it was all about the kind of all that mattered is, the don't have. And so we went into our honeymoon very unprepared and just thought that it would just be magical. And it just wasn't. And for me, like our wedding night was such a, like, I remember thinking, we fought so hard for purity. We saved this. Like, what?
For the record, it was the greatest 11 seconds of my life. So I didn't understand. She was not appreciative about, but
Yeah.
I was just clueless.
And I mean, as funny as like we can laugh about it now, but even after, like, I just went silent. And
Yes.
so for me, there was not a even discussion. It was not for me to go, oh, I didn't say anything. Like I didn't even, and so he didn't say, well, that was the greatest 11 seconds of my life. He didn't say that night or the next morning.
Yeah.
Like it was just silence. And then in my mind, I'm like, okay, that was horrible. I don't want to do that again. And so it was like we spent the rest of our honeymoon, me running from into any kind. Like I was like, oh, let's find all the activities. Let's go water skiing. Let's do all the things that we can do here at this resort because I don't want to be alone with you in our room. And of course that was so confusing to him and so painful, but he didn't know how to say, this is really painful. He just kept trying.
Yeah.
And then, we get back from our honeymoon and no one had talked to us before we went on our honeymoon. So it wasn't like we went back to a couple that had been mentoring us and we had nobody. Like at church, everybody just smiled and they'd given us wonderful wedding showers and they were all at the wedding. But everybody was like, well, how was the honeymoon? Wink, wink, and we were like, oh, it was great because that's all that everyone had ever said. So we didn't want to be different. And so we just said, oh, it's great. And then we just suffered in silence. And, that was such a horrible way to start off a marriage and so confusing because for me, I felt abandoned by God. Like I honored you. We honored you. And so then you kind of try to nitpick, well, maybe we didn't honor him enough. Maybe this is the punishment for not having done enough. And you just really go down a spiral. And we concluded pretty quickly that I was broken and I was the problem. And that was not out of meanness. That was just out of genuine, that only made sense to us that, yeah, that must be it. I'm just broken. And
well, the whole premise that sex was not enjoyable for her, it was for me. So,
right.
duh. And I, believe it or not, was not a malicious asshole. I wasn't trying to be unkind. I just didn't know. I had no idea, no education, no information, no awareness at all, and no language to talk about any of this. And so Phyllis learned not just to reject me, but to pre-reject me. Because she figured out, oh, well, if he walks in the room and, comes up behind me and cups my breasts, well, shoot. So I'd walk in the room, she'd walk out the other side of the
Mhm.
room. So she's pre rejecting. And again, not from a bad heart. She just knew the pain experience that sex was.
Mhm.
So her psyche protected her, and she learned to avoid that. And of course, then I'm on my side going, wow, this is unbelievable that she's so distant, so cold, so cruel,
Mm.
which again, none of that was what was happening for her, but that was what I was experiencing. So anyway, it took us a long time to wrestle through it.
Mm.
You mentioned she's not cruel. I think about the cruelty of the couples who were probably experiencing the exact same thing as you all, who played the game, who did the wink, wink, nudge, nudge. We don't have to talk about it. It's going to be easy. Playing like they're having a great time when really you're not alone in this pot of people that are experiencing the same thing and suffering in silence. Oh, that's the cruelty part.
Mm.
Yeah, we were years into and we were very, very involved in church ministry, prayed together all the time, read the Bible together all the time. So we were very, very active in our faith manifestation. And it was several years in and I remember us driving home, and it suddenly dawned on me, and I don't know the numbers, but let's say there were 10 couples together. All 10 couples are driving home thinking the other 9 couples are doing great. And it just dawned on me, I'm like, wait a minute. What if none of us are doing great and we're all just lying or what? Not, I don't even want to call it lying.
Yeah.
That sounds pejorative. We're just all
Keeping up
protecting
appearances.
ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're just all presenting a front, thinking that everybody else is genuine and we're the ones that are the failures. And that was true, but we didn't know that for a long time.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, Phyllis, one of the things I've heard you just express a lot is the sadness you carry of it's 44 years later and you're still working with couples that have the same story of disconnection and pain. So how do we do different, right? Like, this is a real story, and it's not just your story. It's hundreds or thousands of couple stories. And we want to be involved in discipling really good single people and dating couples to say, we want your story to be different. We want to have a higher level of emotional connection, sexual connection, safety with one another. How the heck do we start that?
Well, even as we were talking, I was thinking, I appreciate so much, what Bridget, you're doing with your whole, just work, that and I know I love that you and Lauren have partnered to even bring a podcast where this stuff is talked about. Like, I think that is what, as a single person, if we'd have had a Bridget in our life who was out there talking about desire, talking like it was all so taboo. And I don't, and I, and I think that it's interesting to me. Josh Harris wrote a book, I Kissed Dating Goodbye. And now he has like renounced his book, like gone opposite in such an extreme way. And I don't know a whole lot about that. I know he's done a lot of deconstructing but it's kind of like he saw the damage of that. And I think, okay, so we have extremes. I feel like we have that extreme, and then we have the extreme. The other extreme to me is that there's no morals, that there's, everything that there's nothing sacred. And I'm like, okay, that seems like two extremes. So what's the balance? Like, can we talk about, to me, it's all in just being able to talk about it. And I think that it's like we don't want to acknowledge that there is pain, that there is trauma in it, that there is hurt. Like the things, I feel like there's so much that we should be talking about before while we're dating, while we're in the dating years of our life, that should be talked about. But of course, we met really young. We were teenagers. We married, I was 19, he was 20. So it's like, okay, we can't wait till people are in their 20s to be talking about this. That means we need to be talking to teenagers about this. And it just needs to be an open topic. And I think, I don't even know who's doing that work. Like, who's going after teenagers to actually talk about this, where it's not just, let's scare them into abstinence. Let's show them all the pictures of possible diseases you can have if you are sexually active. Like we just have such extremes, and we don't know how to just come into this and talk comfortably about these topics, and just to be like, yeah, let's tell our stories. And I think about all of us who have stories to tell. We're the ones who need to be telling our stories. We're the ones who should be going to the teenagers and just telling our stories. And because that's where, to me, change can happen. And, we have now spent years and years and years trying to find answers. Like we always believed so strongly in marriage. We believed God is the author of marriage. So this can't be his design for there to be this much pain, this much function. And so, Glenn is the researcher. He's the one who went back to college. He's done all the reading and all the studies, and started a private practice in marriage and family therapy because of his convictions that this has got to turn out differently for people. But I think that in that, we've discovered so much about emotional health, which is also a really cool platform for teenagers. I think young, even preteens really gravitate towards understanding emotion. Like, I'm just amazed. We have 12 grandchildren, and I see that so often, just that they are more emotionally intelligent and healthy than we were for half of our life. Like, I was in my 50s before I started learning about emotional health. And I was one of those who said, yeah, I don't do emotion. Glenn has enough for both of us. And I wasn't being funny. I was being serious. Like, I don't do emotion. That's just a waste of time. And I'm really productive, and I like that. And that's so unhealthy. And now that we are doing the work that we're doing and realizing, we connect through emotion. Because go back to our honeymoon or even our dating. If we had had emotional health, we would have said, okay, I feel a lot of fear going into our wedding night. We would have acknowledged that. We would have said, hey, that experience, can we slow down? Like, I'm feeling some sad here. We would have had the language to have shown up for ourselves and said, this is what I need. And we didn't know how to say that. We didn't know that even existed to be able to say it. And so I think we got lost so early. And I think that's, to me, the foundation of like where you start. You start by giving some real practical tools on emotional health so that you can talk about really healthy sexual conversations. Like, you can have those when you have really good emotional health.
Yeah,
But
I
most
think
people
about
have no concept. Oh, sorry, Laurie, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Most people have no concept.
Well, most people, we have we have several, but we have a couple of courses, and the first one's called Foundations, because we build on top of that, and our follow-up courses on sexuality. But if people don't have the foundational language to convey what's happening for them, just as Phyllis was just referencing, there's no way they're going to be able to do that in the realm of sexuality. And I hope in your intro you mentioned that I am the co-founder of the Greater Atlanta Christian Schools Preachers Club in 1977. You probably don't even know that about me, Bridget, so I hope you're impressed. So I remember, I went to this elite private school, and we founded this Preachers Club, and we were this hyper spiritual group of, it was all men, of course, because, well, that's the way we rolled back then. Sorry, it's just true. I'm not agreeing. I'm just saying it was. So we would sit around, and, one of the guys might say, oh, did you see that, new girl that, started school last week? And all of us spiritual ones would go, what? We don't notice things like that. Like we of course we didn't notice a hot girl. We don't even know what hot means. And we thought that was right. And again, we weren't doing that because we were wicked or wretched. We did it because we thought it was godly, just to deny everything. And I think if we establish what we now call the Connection Codes protocols with people, where they're able to say, hey, there's this new girl that started school, and I just feel so much joy when I see her. I mean, her hair, her face, I don't know. It just kind of lights me up. And to be able to process that, and, maybe he feels guilt that he has those thoughts or feelings, whatever, that would change the whole dynamic where
Mhm.
we were able to go. Because the point is, it's already happening. We're not making up stuff. This isn't just, we're trying to create, sexual desire, sexual craving, sexual interest. It's already happening.
Mm.
So why not let's just go ahead and be real and authentic about it? We haven't done that for many centuries. This is not a new development.
You're talking about two things I think that are so important. One, you're nailing down the sexual piece of it that happens as you're noticing people, getting to know people. But if we back up and go back to the point you made about being able to have language for the emotional experiences we're happening, that I think is so vital for, our audience is Christian singles and daters. For the church, we are woefully under practiced at non-romantically articulating our emotions with each other. Our families of God, our church families are really bad at rupture and repair of articulating when we are having a hard time with someone. This is, probably it's part of our church history with all of our splits. Some of those things are theological. Some of them are just personality. Some of them are, I don't want to keep working to continue worshiping with you. So I wanted to amplify. I love that you're starting with, if we're going to repair this for the marriages of the future, the couples of the future, we need to build a culture where we're allowed and skilled at talking about the emotional experiences we're having without attributing those emotional experiences to sin. I think part of what's happening in not talking about our emotions is we're trying to prevent being sinful. If I'm angry at you, then I'm sinful. Well, no, but also if I'm jealous of you, I'm admitting something. So then to talk about it, I'm mucking up things with my sin. It's no, we have to be real about what's actually happening and trust God's so big that he's going to work with us through actually talking about the thing, not avoiding it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And even the word sin, there are a number of words in English scripture that are just made up words. There literally is not a bridge between the English word. They're just made up. And I've studied this for years. We can talk about that on another podcast sometime. But even the word sin is the word missing. To be able to say, I missed, oh, shoot, I missed that. Lauren, we become good friends and I forget your birthday. And I missed it. Well, I sinned against you. Now, hopefully that's not a big enough sin that it will crush our relationship. Hopefully, we can still reconnect through that. And I can go, oh, I feel so much guilt. Dang it, I totally missed on that. And if we redefine that, because sin for me growing up, and mostly for Phyllis too, I mean, if you have a sin, you're probably damned to hell. So it is very important that you don't ever have sin. But if you ever do, don't admit it. And maybe God won't find out about it. Because your eternal damnation is at risk. So don't ever acknowledge sin. Don't do it. But if you accidentally do it, don't acknowledge it because the cost is too great. Whereas if I'm able to just say, "Oh shoot, I totally missed on that." Now there are some misses. I mean, if I went and burned your house down, that's a big enough miss. Our relationship may not recover from that. I mean, I burned your freaking house down. That's a big thing. And I go, oh, Lauren, totally missed on that. I feel some guilt that I burnt your house. I don't know that we might, but I don't know that we'd be able to repair. Yeah. I don't know you that well. So yeah, I thought you were such a gracious person that you'd be like, oh, it's just a house. No, I'm just kidding. but some misses are more damaging and more lasting than others, but we're still just missing on some.
Yeah. So we've mentioned a few times about connection codes, which is not only your book, but it also is just the beautiful framework that you've literally taught across the world, helping men and women in all ages and stages of life connect to themselves. And so I actually found their book, how this whole how this story started of how the heck we're here, is that
Reggie, you didn't find it. Tell the truth. You stole it.
I stole it. Yes, I'm getting ready to tell that part. I stole the Connection Codes book from my coworker. I was full-time pastor at the time and saw it on my coworker's desk. They found it because someone posted about it on Instagram. I stole the book. I was in a relationship with a man I thought I was going to marry. And a month into reading the book, I went, no, I don't actually want to marry this man, which I'm very thankful. Thank you for breaking us up. And I mean, it was 9 months of really, really severe depression of my body went, oh no, like, I don't think I've actually listened to what's happening inside of my emotional reality. I don't think I've ever really existed my whole life. And what do I do now? Like, just as my own identity crisis. But then also in romance, I remember one of the first questions I asked you, Glenn, is like, are we going to get in trouble for being too emotionally connected on a first date? Because so much of the purity culture teaching was like, don't develop soul ties, if you're going to cross emotional boundaries, you're going to somehow sin or something horrible is going to happen if you're your authentic self. And so I was like so wildly confused and didn't know what to do. And then I emailed Dr. Glenn and Phyllis.
Wait, that's the end of the story?
That's the end of my story. So I guess my question is, what is my question after that?
Well, you were just specifically saying just that, is it on a first date? What happens if you are authentic and you're emotionally vulnerable? Because I loved your response to Bridget, because y'all had this conversation many times. So
yes,
do you remember what you said to her or what you would say to her now if she asked that?
I remember.
Okay. Here, I don't know if I'll say it wrong. Okay, you just tell me what I said.
Yeah, you said that you need. This is hilarious. You said you need to know if you can be your authentic self within 30 minutes of meeting somebody. Otherwise, you end up stuck in for years. It was really, really brilliant. I still remember it to this day.
So good.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm surprised because you would say the same thing to anyone.
I just didn't
right
want to get
now.
in trouble. Bridget might think, no, that's not what you said.
Because I love that. I love because I know what you say to people. Just that to me, if you show up, in a dating relationship or any relationship, and you show up authentic and you show up vulnerable, and they are, really quickly if they're not safe for you, and if they're just judgy or they're trying to fix you. That in any relationship, yeah, I would like to just know that in our first encounter. Because there's no reason for me to have a second encounter or a third or anything like that. It's just such a waste of my energy. And I don't want to give, even in friendship, I don't want to give more to this friendship to just find out down the road after we've gone and done all these fun things together that actually you're just going to be constantly judging me. You're not safe for me. You're going to be trying to fix me. No, thank you. And you also are like criticizing my authenticity. So I'm just like, yeah, I would just as soon know that in the first 30 minutes of being, with somebody.
Yeah. And this, and I love learning about the connection codes. And Bridget, you've helped me learn a lot about the connection codes. And this is one of them that, and again, sounds somewhat pejorative, misogynistic, but it's just the way the culture is right now, where, this couple's dating and 3, 4, 5, 6 years in, she finds out he's not safe for me. And then she connects with another guy 3, 4, 5, 6 years in. And now she's 30, 32, 34, 35. And she's like, well, dang, I thought I'd be married and have kids by it now. And I think a lot of times she ends up settling for the next guy. It's like, well, I'll just overlook this, overlook that. And it could be in reverse as well. But I think typically the female ends up stuck in those scenarios just culturally. Women are just so much more advanced spiritually, emotionally, as far as my experience than men are. So what, Bridget taught me is that you actually can find out, and 30 minutes would be awesome, but even if it's 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months, that's a heck of a lot faster than 6 years. So if you can find out in 3 weeks, oh, this guy's not going to be safe for me, and he's not going to reveal his authentic, vulnerable self. Oh, and don't go burn his house down, Bridget, but don't hang out with that guy. Be polite to him when you see him in the grocery store, but you're not supposed to spend a lot of time, certainly not 6 years with him. That's what most people's stories are, is they spend so much time, and time matters. And to be able to find out, again, 30 minutes is awesome, but be able to find out in 3 weeks that, oh, this guy may not even get the connection codes yet, but he's able to share authentically and he's able to be safe for me. Okay, we can build something here. And Bridget, you're the one that walks around with your keychain and you do the core emotion wheel with total strangers on an airplane. And I'm like, dang, that is that's way beyond where I normally function, which is just so beautiful. And you just come through all the stuff so quickly. I think it's brilliant.
One of the things being able to do that requires is that you're not so afraid of who you are being, not just like I'm afraid of their judgment, but like it requires a lot of confidence in who you are to be willing to bring your full self to the front and allow this authenticity that you're talking about, Phyllis, this vulnerability of presence, vulnerability of my true self showing up. You really have to be grounded enough in Christ, in who you are, to know I'm not looking for this person to approve of me. I'm looking for them to offer a measure of appropriate acceptance. But if I highlight that because I think sometimes in dating in particular, we can be bringing our need for validation to these dating experiences and inadvertently setting ourselves up to need someone to tell us we're okay, as opposed to being okay with ourselves and noticing, do you give acceptance back? Do I like what I'm noticing in you? So it feels important to just highlight that a little bit too.
Yeah. And I would say confidence, and maybe even before that and bigger than that, maybe courage. Just, I want Bridget just to be Bridget, to be her authentic, vulnerable self. If some dude doesn't like that, okay, good. I'm glad you found that out in a day and a half instead of 6 years. And it's still painful. I'm not saying that, oh, now it's, what they say, unicorns and what's it, butterflies and rainbows or something. I don't know.
Rainbows and butterflies.
Yeah. It's still painful, but at least you found out quickly. Now you know, instead of investing so much of your life finding out. So it I hate to say it that way. It sounds so clerical, but it streamlines the process. Yeah.
I was going to say, one of the practical ways of so when I met Glenn and Phyllis, I was like, hey, I really want to help people have these conversations from date one. So they're not waiting until we had a horrible honeymoon and we've been married for 12 years and now we're having the conversation. And so I want to also differentiate that I'm not showing up with my social security number or all of the inner workings of all of the horrible things that are happening in my life. I'm showing up authentically with small amounts of authenticity to see how they respond. So we are going to do a core emotion wheel at some point. We'll talk about that. But like using core emotion language. So I might show up on a first date and say, oh my God, this is really funny. This is a date that I had. This is so hilarious. And I told him, he's like, oh, how are you doing? I said, I'm feeling lots of joy to see you, but I'm a little nervous. I'm feeling a little bit of fear about connecting today. And he goes, oh, why would you feel fear? And I was like, I said, just, this is new and always taking a first date. It's always a little risky with our heart. And so I remember I was trying to explain that to him and he could not even hold space for the fact that I felt fear. And so I very quickly, it was one of those dates where I went to the bathroom and I'm like, oh my gosh, how much longer do I have to be here? But then there have been other moments where I show up, and I remember one time I had gone on a date with this guy, and something had happened at work where I saw another man be really inappropriate with a woman, and I was really flooded. I felt a lot of anger about it. And so I chose just to risk a little bit. I said, I'm feeling really sad today. This thing happened at work and there's some lonely in that for me too. I didn't really know who to ask for help when I saw this man really speaking inappropriately to this woman, and he engaged so kindly. And watching his response went, okay, there's at least some level. And so it's not necessarily in 30 minutes, I know that I'm going to marry them. But with using some of those core emotion words, I'm engaging how do you treat your own emotions and how do you treat my emotions? Because that will set the tone for the whole relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. At least his eyebrows should raise. he at least you go, oh, what, wait, what?
Mhm.
I mean, to have some level of curiosity, whereas, the first guy, it's like, what? Because basically he's saying, you're stupid, you're an idiot, you're wrong. You don't need to hang out with people. And he doesn't use those words, but it's the same message. And you don't need to hang out with people like that. Be polite to them when you see them in the grocery store, but don't hang out with them. Wow, that's pretty powerful.
I think that with a lot of this, I go back to, in our dating relationship, if I had had these tools, I would have just been emotionally healthy myself. Like it's not that I was emotionally healthy, but I was dating someone that wasn't. It's not that. It's that neither one of us had the tools, but we just didn't. It was like we were wandering in the desert, but we didn't know we were wandering in the desert. So we were like pursuing all the things that we believed we were told, like just love God, read his word, pray together, go to church, do ministry. We had, and on paper, we were doing everything correctly. Yeah. And it was like, oh my goodness, you guys have it together. Even as young as we were, we had really good paying jobs. We were able to buy our first house when we married, we closed right before the wedding. So we moved into our own house when we got married. We bought a new car. Like we were doing on paper really well. But in life, we didn't have the tools. Like we didn't know how to communicate in a healthy way emotionally. And we didn't even know how to fight in like healthy way. And it was like we were just so lost in all of that. And yet I just think that if I'd have had different tools while I was in the dating years, while I was dating, I would have been so much healthier as a person. Yeah. And same for Glenn. Oh my gosh. I feel like we've done so much work on our own selves, just in the past decade. Yeah. And I'm like, don't wait till you're 50 to start doing this kind of work. Like do it when you're young. And I think, and I do, I think about my own, we have teenage grandchildren and we have some who are in their early 20s. And I'm thinking, I see all of the things they go through. And, I'm like, they're not exempt from pain. They're not exempt from heartache. They're not exempt from trauma. And so these tools are so important to know at a really young age so that you can talk about your loneliness. You can talk about your guilt. You can bring these things to the table. But I do think that we so often have set ourselves up in our faith-based communities where we expect people to basically be perfect. And so if we struggle with anything, we rarely talk about it because we don't want people to judge us. Yes. And so we come in with all the smiles and all the, the praise and worship and all the things that we think people want to see. And then, but yet we're dying inside. We're lonely. We're really struggling. And we don't know how to talk about that because it's like there's no space. There's no space for that just in our everyday encounters. So then you get into a dating relationship and I'm not sure there's so much risk. If I show my real authentic self, oh my gosh, I will never have a date. I will never be in a relationship. And so we even hide for protection within our dating relationships because we think no one is going to like the real me. And then, so often we keep it secret and then it slips out often after we're married or we've been in a relationship a super long time and there's already enough investment that it also then sometimes you make it anyway. The person doesn't walk away because there's already been so much investment. And yet it's like we deserve to be authentic, our authentic selves from the get-go.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think about what Aslan, that famous philosopher Aslan in Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, said to Lucy. He said, we're never told what would have been. So what would have happened if Phyllis and I had this language from day one? I don't know. Even literally when I hit her in the head with a softball, we would go, oh my gosh, I feel so much guilt. I feel some shame. I was trying to be cool and now I look like a moron. And I feel really weird. Would we have learn to dance together? Well, I don't know. She may have smartened up in the first day and a half and be like, I ain't hanging out with this guy. He's weird. Or she may have learned how to dance with me from the beginning. And that would have changed everything. So again, we have no way of knowing, but probably we would have ended up together anyway, because I've always liked her. And I think she's always liked me. I'm always nervous about that, little fear there. But if we'd had that language, it would have changed. It certainly would have changed the whole dynamic, the whole setup of our relationship. From the beginning.
So I've heard you mention the tools, and I know that people can go get the book and the masterclass and the podcast, all of those things. But the tool that saved my life when I first found connection codes is the core emotion wheel. And so would you guys be willing to talk about what that is and model that for us of what it looks like for a couple to share their core emotions?
Yeah, I'll try to do the really short version, because for me, I was in my 50s before I understood that my brain houses emotion. And I think that I was so blown away, because I'm like, okay, I've never heard this in school. I never heard it in church. I'm like blown away that God created me. I believe that with all my heart. He created me to house with a brain that houses emotion. Why are we not talking about this? Like, I'm like, I really went through this, wanted to stand on every mountaintop and yell, going, hello, what in the world? God created us with emotion. And yet I was really under the impression you could opt out, you could choose. I didn't know emotion happens to you. I really was one of those believers, choose joy. I was always telling my friends that. I gave them little joy magnets and a little joy plaques and a little joy and I was the one who was always saying, just choose joy, just choose joy. And then, in my 50s, that's when Glenn was doing all this research in his private practice. And I finally hit a brick wall in my life and just went to the rock bottom of everything. And my mom was dying of cancer at the time. And she was my best friend, and I didn't want to be sad. And I was like, no, I'm not going to be sad. I'm just going to choose joy. And it didn't work. And my body started to shut down. And it was like, I couldn't believe it. It was just this shock. And Glenn was trying, because he was doing all this research, he was bringing it home. And he said, like, the sad, he goes, well, you're experiencing sad. I'm like, I don't have time to be sad. And he said, well, I'm not trying to get you to be sad. That's just what's firing in your brain. And I'm like, hold on. Like, what? And then he started to explain all of this science. And I'm just like, you've got to be kidding me. But it was such a huge moment for me, because I didn't know how to tap in. It was almost like I had ignored that part of my brain. And so to go, okay, this is what sad feels like. Whoa, wait a minute. Or then, he started to tell me that there's 5 regions of the brain there are 5 regions that house emotions. And so it's like anger is one of them. And I'm like, oh, no. I don't do anger. I've never,
that's not godly.
Right. Exactly. So I'm like, I don't understand that. He gave us an anger region of the brain. What in the world are we supposed to be doing with that? How are we tuning into that? And then, it's like explain each region, but in that it led us to this core emotion wheel. But most of it was because of my story. I needed something super simple to start tuning in to my emotions, because I didn't know how to feel them. I didn't know how to express them. I was like so lost in all of that. So tell us about the 5 regions.
Well, and just a little backstory. So I'm, now I have a marriage and family therapy master's degree. I opened my private practice, and now I'm sitting on the other side of the curtain with the therapist, and all the therapists are going, we don't really know. Nothing really works. We just, we meander through the forest of people trying to find some food, and we hope they tell their stories and it helps a little bit. And I'm, first of all, pissed. Somebody should have told me that before I spent all this time and energy and money on these degrees. Second of all, what the heck? Are you kidding me? We don't actually know. I just assumed we knew, because the equivalent to me is you go to a mechanic with your car that's not running, and the mechanic goes, we don't really know. I mean, we'll fiddle with it. And then you find out he rides a bicycle. And marriage therapists in this country have a much higher divorce rate than the population does. And I learned that too. And I'm like, what the heck? That's who we're turning to for help. And they don't even know how to do it. So it started out with a lot of annoyance, discouragement, disillusionment. And I thought there's got to be a way. There has to be something directional where we're not just chit chatting with people, which is a good business model. I just want you to come back and see me once a week for 15 years. And, that's a good business model for me. So I thought, so I started doing research and trying to figure there's got to be a way. And that's what led me to starting from scratch and saying, okay, let's figure out what could work, what could be directional, what could actually make some differences today and this week, not over the next 3 years, which again, is a good business model because if I can keep you coming to me, I mean, that is my vocation. But I want people literally that day to feel a difference. And within a few weeks, I want them to be living in a very different place. So I just began studying the brain, emotion. We figured out that humans, and we just observed thousands of interactions, humans connect through emotion, not logistics. So that took me down the trail of emotion, learning that, oh, this is just fundamental brain chemistry. This isn't some fancy philosophical thing. And there's only 5 regions. I'm like, what the heck? That people can learn that. Anger, disgust, pleasure, pain, and fear. There's over 3,000 emotion words in the English language. You can't learn 3,000 anythings. But you can learn 5. You can, and there's actually 8 core emotions because we divide up pain and disgust. You can learn a list of 8, and it's the common language. Every human experiences it. So it's not like I'm trying to describe something to you that you've never even noticed. Every human knows fear. Every human knows loneliness. Every human knows joy. So we can talk and we can connect through this.
Awesome. Well, can you show us what this looks like in real life?
Right. So the core emotion wheel is the 8 core emotions. Through a whole lot of research, figured out 2 minutes per person is what works. And then the other is simply going to do what we call oohing, where they're just something audible. It has to be audible. If they're silent, my brain experiences pain. That's true for every human. So we'll do the wheel hopefully in 2 minutes each and show how it's done. Can you go first?
Okay, I'll go first.
Okay.
Let's see. I'll start with hurt. I think my hurt was definitely more physical yesterday because we traveled really, really long travel day. So I felt the pain in my body. So that was definitely under hurt. I think I felt a little bit of hurt with just one of the people that were on our trip. And it's like there's not a gratitude. Like we take them on this amazing trip and there's not even a, hey, thank you for taking me. So I feel some hurt in that. Sad. This morning I found out that one of my best friends put her house on the market and I think I just change is hard for me. I feel sad in that. Probably some loneliness too, because I'm used to seeing her a lot and I have fear. I have fear that I won't be seeing her as easily. We'll have to come up with a different way to see each other with her moving. Let's see. Guilt. I think I feel, I'm wrestling with some guilt even today with just taking a kind of a slower day because we traveled yesterday. And I don't want to jump back into my workout routine.
Oh, wow.
So probably feel a little guilt about that. Shame. I think there's just some shame around even coming back. Like it's almost like I do better when we're away than when I come back. Like sometimes when I come back, I feel like I have maybe more of a rut I get into, but when we're gone, I feel more energy and more like excitement about getting stuff done. Anger. I would say right now, there's still a lot of core level anger in the business side of life and things that we've got to straighten out and figure out and change. And so there's probably constant little snaps of anger around all that. And then joy, oh my word, the 2.5 weeks in Costa Rica with you were just magical.
Wow.
So a lot of joy.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you. For me, a lot of hurt with the whole business scenario.
Wow.
And the hurt has gotten deeper because I've not been allowed to process any of that with the people involved.
Wow.
Which has been really difficult. But a lot of anger just that we're going to do this anyway. We're pressing on. Our team is coalescing like crazy and so much joy in that. I mean, just, we're just having a lot of fun together. But a lot of that anger pushing towards the cruise that Brigitte is going
Mhm.
with us on, just to make sure that we're on point
Mhm.
with that. Let's see. Sadness. There's a bit, a bit of sadness in Costa Rica because it is freaking hot there. And I so wanted to be outside, around the pool, but man, it was just exhausting and unbearable. It just felt really heavy. Sometimes lonely in that because everybody else was out there around the pool anyway. And I was just like, shoot, I'm going back inside. And so I ended up with some loneliness in that.
Yeah.
Some fear, a lot of driving fear, just with the cruise. We have so many things we're working on, so many
Yeah.
plates spinning, and some fear. I get hit with guilt and shame too, just to make sure that I'm doing what I need to be. And my team harasses us to death, or harasses me to death to make sure that I am on point, which I appreciate. That's very, very helpful. And I think that's all 8. I always lose track, but I think that's the wheel.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love it. So that's a daily exercise to tune in to what's happening, because most of us are illiterate. I certainly was for half a century. And just to exercise the emotional muscle to get literate in it, because we were when we were born. We were literate when we were 12 months old, 18 months old, 24 months old. And then somewhere along the way, we got knocked off course.
Glenn and Phyllis, this is amazing. Thank you so much for showing us what it could look like for an individual, with a friend, or a dating couple, definitely couples that are increasingly committed to each other, to practice the skill. This is what I love about our entire conversation. You're showcasing we can practice the skills of emotional awareness with partners, and in so doing, increase intimacy, increase closeness in the relationship, and increase closeness with ourselves. So thank you so much for just spending time with us and showcasing for us what this could look like and the benefit of doing this brave self-emotion work. We get to have real relationship with people. It's been such a delight to have you with us. If people who are listening want to connect with you, want to learn more about connection codes, will you tell them where they can keep up with you?
Yeah, absolutely. We also have a podcast. It's called The Connection Codes. We had the book, of course, as Bridget mentioned. It's on Amazon. We have a website. It's called
connectioncodes.co. C-O.
Thank you,
I love
Bridget. Wow.
She's new here.
Yeah.
I just hired her 3 days ago.
And, I would say that we have a lot of new stuff coming out in the fall. And so I think that just staying in touch. And I know Bridget will present some of these things as well. If you're new to anything we're talking about, like, I appreciate that Bridget saying that she just got the book. And, it's a really low investment money-wise to start there. The podcast is free, so you can also jump on that. But I think that if this is for you as the listener, moments of, I do need to know more about emotional health, start with the book. And but I love that Bridget talks about, you talk about this so much too. So I think that, there's many ways to find us out there, but so fun to be with you guys today and being invited on your podcast. It means so much.
Thank you. We'll make sure that all of those resources are connected in the show notes, so it's easy for people to get the book and start practicing these skills.
Thank you.
I love it.
Thanks so much for spending your time with us today. If this conversation encouraged you, challenged you, or helped you feel a little less alone in your dating journey, we'd love for you to subscribe, leave a review, or share this episode with someone who might also need the encouragement. You'll find links in the show notes to connect with today's guest, as well as other ways to work with Lauren and me through coaching and other opportunities designed to support you in dating with clarity, trust, and integrity. We believe you don't have to shut down your desire or abandon your values to build a meaningful connection. And we're honored to walk alongside you as you navigate that journey. You can also find us on Instagram at Dating and Desire, where we'll continue the conversation. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next time.